Sure. Fantastic that you've got the best club in the country. Just to say, obviously, I mentioned earlier, 2 million less volunteers in the last 6 years. It is not surprising given COVID and cost of living. I think that is one of the barriers in relation to people's time is precious and they've found other things to do, and it is expensive to volunteer. From our research at the Alliance, we've seen an increase of 25% in the amount of admin for volunteers, so the local secretary or president of the rugby league clubs and others, but that's not translated in a 25% increase in participation. So what I'd talk through, and it's obviously important today to talk about this, is about the regulation and legislation around local clubs. So today, in relation to Martin's Law, we are very supportive and positive about the introduction of Martin's Law, and we've worked very hard in developing that to ensure that the burdens on volunteers are proportionate, particularly around the standard tier, moving from 100 to 200 people and having some exclusions around some of the activities, outdoor activities that might include. Likewise, in terms of the mandatory reporting, in terms of the police and crime bill, we want to ensure that the implications of that being implemented again, that we absolutely agree with in terms of protections, but doesn't become another burden, another piece of work, another legal responsibility for Joe as the volunteer running that rugby club. Because that's the worries that volunteers have as they take on more responsibility. I'll have to report this to the local authority, I'll have to report it to the police, I am accountable for this. So I think where the solution should be is wherever we are looking to bring in proposed legislation or regulation, that we should be seen as an absolutely consultee on that point in relation to volunteers. And I'm delighted to say, as I say, Martin's Law have been involved in that, and we'd welcome more involvement with the Home Office in relation to mandatory reporting. The other thing, I think, in terms of reducing those burdens, is to ensure that when legislation regulation comes in, there's an annual or regular review of that. So as it comes through, we might find there's absolutely no implications on volunteers, or we might find this is absolutely, holding their hands behind their backs in terms of moving forward. So that would be the legislation regulation side of things. And I think, coming back to volunteers, they don't have a huge amount of time. They have lives to lead as well. We have to remember that any guidance that we produce to volunteers and with volunteers is clear, it's consistent, and it's simple to apply. Too many times I think we've allowed many of our 100,000 sports clubs to write their own policies, and I think it's time to have a consistent suite of examples of where that can come in. It worked incredibly well in the introduction of GDPR a few years back, where we had a consistent suite of support, and I think that's where we can do a much better job in terms of supporting the 98% of volunteers that are out there running community